Welcome to the Cybersecurity Connection episode, where we bring you, the viewer, a new nightly cybersecurity recruiter with at least one junior role and other cybersecurity IT-related roles each and every night. If you look under the video, there are links to various content we will discuss during this live discussion. So what you will see below this video is the email contact for my guest host, along with the job board. Please open the job board, do actual live search while we are discussing this. So if there's something that you might need a little bit of more knowledge about, we're here for that. So with that, I'll turn it over to my guest host, Justen Baxter.
Well, thanks a lot, Justin. So I'm Justen Baxter. I'm a senior recruiter with Engility. We're a little over $2 billion in revenue. We do both intelligence, federal civilian, and DoD cybersecurity work, critical to national security. I've been recruiting in this space for well over 10 years, well versed in cyber, specifically hiring for entry level, reverse engineering, pen testing, red team, blue team. A lot of the work that probably many of you want to get into or are already working in. So thank you for hosting this, Justin. I think this is a very vital and necessary pursuit to help get folks involved in the cybersecurity sector here at Engility. Thank you.
So prior to us going live, we did discuss a few jobs, and what we wanted to jump right into is one position right away, which actually has a question along with it. So the question to you, Justin, is do you ever see roles that allow you to not require cert prior to employment? And we're talking more about the DoD 8570, and if so, how often?
So definitely, I mean, that's a great question. I do see a percentage of roles where we can take somebody coming out, say a 35 Lima or another like MOS, or even somebody not coming out of the military who maybe doesn't have a specific certification, coming right out of the service or out of college. And there are times, this is a perfect example, where in lieu of that, we will give them a waiver and allow them, it could be 90 days to 180 days to complete some necessary certification or certifications to meet that criteria. So in this case, I'd recommend the Security Plus personally. But yeah, we definitely do have those. It's probably not as frequent, but I know that's something that the DoD is working on, and we'll probably see more of that moving in that direction where there is some flexibility given certain candidates' background and experience coming out of military or coming out of the civilian sector.
Awesome. And that's a good note to have for people that are job hunting. Just because it does say that, do scroll down just a little bit more because this was actually down in the more of the qualification area, so it won't jump out necessarily at the very front. So it's key to actually look through job descriptions when you are job hunting. So thank you for that. So let's jump into the next topic. So what are the top skills for cyber that are the high demand right now?
Yeah, I think really right now I say anyone who's got any type of Python scripting, basic scripting, black box testing, kind of those core Kali Linux experience doing, any type of malware analysis. And it could be, in your home lab, in your own, black box testing, or maybe you're doing some of this script kiddie work and you just really want to get more involved in malware. Malware analysis, anything low level coding, x86, for example, anything at the lower level ARM processor, that is in extreme high demand. And obviously that's where cyber is going is, there's a lot around pen testing and red team and information warfare. And so any of those types of skills, and you can get a lot of that from just getting a Raspberry Pi, playing around with it, setting up a home lab. So a lot of the types of skills that are in the highest demand are also things where, it's still accessible. You don't need a certification to get some of these skills. You just need a will and a way and a curiosity. I do see that's probably the biggest gap in terms of the cyber workforce it's some of those core, malware analysis, Python scripting, basic, Kali Linux, some of that experience that we really look for quite a bit.
Awesome. And yeah, that's the thing is those skills are gonna always vary as time goes on, but typically for at least a few months or a year or so, if you focus on those skills that are in high demand, typically there is still a good chunk of jobs, even 6 months, a year down the road. So just know that if you are pursuing those certs or in demand degrees and things like that. So another thing is let's talk about how to write a solid resume as an entry-level or career transitioning candidate. I think that's something that some have had multiple messages on. That's a really good topic to discuss. And from your perspective, what do you see maybe as a flaw that some people have been submitting, or ways that people can maybe tweak it?
Yeah, so I think for cyber, even in DoD, I think because of the essence of cyber it's a creative role where you need to think outside the box, especially even working on a blue team. You have to think like a red team or white hat, so to speak. I think having sections on the resume where you dedicate it to hobby work, to outside research, I'm talking security research, to capture the flags, even if you did that, maybe it's not through your military service, but maybe it's getting involved in cybersecurity meetups, doing open source research, and you can go out and find these types of groups. I really, as a recruiter, I like to see whenever across the board, I like to see a resume with some type of hobby section somewhere where they mention conferences, other research, other areas, and the formatting doesn't matter to me. Being extremely rigid for cyber doesn't work. I mean, obviously you want a section for your dedicated to your certifications, but if you're entry level, you may only be coming in with a Security Plus. You may not have all the SANS certs, GX certs, CISP, etc. CEH, but maybe you've done ethical hacking or attended a CTF. That speaks volumes, because if I'm looking at, two entry-level candidates, and, one is really more cookie cutter, and the other one talks about going to Black Hat and DEF CON, or, attended this capture the flag. Maybe they're a systems admin by day, but they're doing all these really cool things in terms of black box testing by night, in the evening, or they're involved in other groups or doing things like what you're doing, Justin, outside the box. That speaks volumes, and it shows, in my mind, a lot of the managers that I work with, they don't want somebody in the cybersecurity profession that sees it as a job. They want somebody that's passionate about it and sees it as a hobby. So when I see somebody who looks on paper like a cybersecurity hobbyist, that's somebody that I know is going to be passionate about the work, is going to grow with the organization, and is going to serve the mission better. So those are some of the differentiators. Obviously you want to dedicate a section to certifications. I'm speaking more towards a mid-level or senior level. You want to address, any key types of experience with, advanced persistent threats, APTs. If you've gotten into reverse engineering, or anything in that realm. Obviously ISOs, ISIs would address, other types of experience. But I do think that for the entry levels coming in, your differentiator is really going to be your passion to do this like a hobbyist. I mean, a lot of the best cyber engineers I've seen have, they've even come out with music degrees, or they've come out, through the gaming sector. They got into it through playing, Call of Duty, believe it or not. So they can come from any walk of life, from both military and civilian. For me, it's looking at that resume and saying, is this somebody that is worth, calling first? And second, is this somebody that's going to fit and serve the mission and be passionate about the work? Because if they're doing this, and it's not a 9 to 5, if they're working in an NTOC some other watch, state doing blue team type role work. It could be a 24/7 shift or things of that nature. They need to really love what they're doing. And I need to see a resume that speaks to that. So I know that's a little drawn out, but that is what I look for. I think that's what hiring managers look for in this space, in DoD. And we want somebody that ultimately cares about the mission and wants to, in some cases, save lives through the work they're doing.
And I think that's a key element to understand, no matter where you're at inside the sector. You're defending or you're shoring up defenses, especially when you're talking about DoD positions that are cleared and things like that. So it's not just a, hey, I went into this job, things like that. So if you can show that extracurricular activities, things like that, they kind of can weigh into it, especially if you don't have an actual job inside the field. Like you said, it speaks volumes. I had a guest on previously. They talked about capture the flags and other events. If you place, top 3, things like that in some of these events, people are going to really be looking at you because you're showing that you know your stuff. Let's say it's 100, 200 people that were competing, and you're, close to that top or even the top person in it. It shows that it's kind of like a vetting process. If you were going into the NBA, NFL, or some crazy thing like that, right? You're vetting that person, going through college, because now you have to do college for NBA. But yeah, so you have that vetting process. So it's easy, I guess, for someone to vet person that's coming in that's already been 5-10 years in the cybersecurity field versus someone that just got the degree or just got a cert, because you can see that path that they've already been on. So grabbing that person early on is key to seeing that, what are you doing in the field? How are you separating from the other applicants, things like that.
And I would say, to chime in, the technology that they're going to work on within the DoD and IC space, not that some of those other Silicon Valley, some of the other companies out there don't do cool work, but making mobile apps versus maybe protecting the infrastructure for our country and potentially saving lives, industrial control systems, protecting vital national security interests worldwide and democracy. If somebody's passionate about those types of things, then that's going to come through with a higher level of work product, versus somebody who just, if you just want to go and make mobile apps, this might not be for you.
Awesome. And before we start fielding questions, we did have those other 2 job descriptions that we wanted to highlight. The very first one we did highlight was that no clearance required and the certification could be delayed for that 180 days. So let's jump into something that requires a little extra. So the first one I have up is that software reverse engineer. Over to you, Justin.
Yeah, I'm here. So. So this is a very specific skill set. This obviously is not going to be for a lot of the entry level folks, although there may be some entry level folks that have done this type of work. Maybe they're doing it home lab. It does require a TSSCI clearance, but some of the common tools would be an IDA Pro, an Ollie debug. These are debuggers that are pretty common in the reverse engineering space. So this work is, focusing on our Media Exploitation Center within DC. Obviously, it's classified work. So, beyond you can scroll down a little bit, Justin.
Okay.
If you could.
Yep.
Yeah. Beyond the job description, I can't go into great level of detail, but, obviously, Windows sysinternals, Kali Linux, which I addressed earlier. You're looking at anything Windows internals or Windows kernel, you will have a job with expertise in that arena, cleared or non-cleared. But this obviously is a cleared requirement, and then any lower level understanding. Anyone who understands assembly language, ARM processor, you reference football, basketball. I look at those folks as being the John Elways and the Michael Jordan's, LeBron James's, Tom Brady's of the world, because, in this space, if you can do low level programming, you can go anywhere from there. So, these folks that are coming in here really should be treated like athletes. I mean, you look at terms like Trojan horse, logic bomb, some of these terms that are pretty common for those in the reverse engineering space within DoD. I mean, this is the really cutting edge. You're talking highest level, coolest work in the industry, and you're not going to be able to do a lot of this type of work at this level within the commercial space. You just won't have access to the technology that we have.
All right, and then let's kick it off that the last one, and then after that we're going to take field questions. So
Sure.
the next one is that cybersecurity engineer out of Colorado.
Yeah, you can scroll down on this. This also requires TSSCI. Yeah, and this is our space division. So, this role specifically, obviously, we do require the CISP coming in. I know for a fact within space they generally weigh heavily more on, the master's degree, but if you don't have the master's related experience specifically doing cyber incident handling or working on a similar program like this. So this is definitely not an entry level role. Again, I would look at this as probably a senior mid to senior level. Sometimes I've seen flexibility on the years. So it says 12 plus years, maybe that could be 10 years, given, internships or things of that nature. But normally you got to come in with that minimum 10 years of experience. And then obviously DoD 8570, we addressed that. I mean, there wouldn't be flexibility at this level on these types of certifications. I mean, this is supporting a classified, the ground system, the space system. So again, really cutting edge work, vital to our national security, certainly. And, again, this would require a lot of senior level cyber experience in incident handling.
Okay, and with that, we have some viewers on that have sent over some questions.
Sure.
Eric actually was one of the first ones that jumped in. Basically, he's already saying that he's sending you an email. I gave him your email address, which is also below the feed. And also, if you're on here, please do subscribe. That will help. But yeah, so he basically asked it, and do you want to give it out over here again, or?
Yeah, I can give out. So it's justen.baxter@engility.com. So that's JUSTEN.Baxter, B as in baseball, AXTER @engility.com. Soon to be SAIC, obviously. Email Eric, email me, anyone else on the call. I'm happy to work with you. Even if you don't see positions that you necessarily qualify for, if you're working towards this, I'll take the time and talk with you, obviously offline, and address, any concerns or questions you might have. And if I can even direct you and help you to work your way towards certain meetups, CTF challenges, certifications, I'm more than willing to do that. And we always have other positions coming in, in the coming months or the new year that I can help you with. So don't be deterred if anyone is here and saying, well, I don't see exactly where I would qualify for one of your cyber roles. That's okay. I'll still work with you and see where maybe you can fit down the road as well. Okay.
And then the next question I have is, what does it really take to transition from a network engineer? So this person just passed their CASP, so that gives them that IET level 3, IAM level 2.
Okay.
What does it really take to land a cybersecurity engineer position if they've been working as a network engineer or sysadmin?
So I guess the question I would have for that individual is, when they say cybersecurity engineer, they're doing networking. Obviously, they probably have some experience with firewalls. I'm assuming. Have they gotten into any penetration testing at home? Is that a direction they're looking to go in? Or are they looking to work more on the defensive end? Or maybe we haven't even thought that far along at this point? Because there's different, you're just saying, you said systems administration and network engineering. Those can look different. Cyber is becoming so specialized now.
Correct.
So
yes. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, and so yeah, so good question and answer. So the next one, Vladimir asked, he asked if we are just starting with the tools that are listed in the desired skills, what would you recommend listing on the resume? If they've only had, let's say, maybe a week, a month, maybe just a few hours, just to know like kind of the outlay, things like that. Um, do you think that's a good skill to put on that resume, or what level do you think they should have just even put it on a resume?
I mean, as long as you've been hands on, you can quantify that, and you could say, 6 months. You could say 6 months of experience working, with Python scripting. Python scripting. You could say, worked on, malware analysis, 3 months, on, CTF challenge, XYZ. But if you've just researched it and know of it, but you don't have any type of, home lab set up, you're not doing black box testing or anything on it, you haven't done a course. I mean, you could list a conference that you've attended, but in terms of skill, I'd want you to just be honest and quantify it. You could say, 6 months or a year. I think if it's like, a couple of weeks, that probably is not something you're gonna want to list. But I think being honest, 3 to 6 months, and just letting the recruiter know, as well after you put on the resume, hey, I'm working towards this. I know I'm junior, but I'm really passionate about X, Y, Z. I've got a Kali Linux box set up at home, and I'm, doing, this type of script kiddie work, or, I'm working with doing, malware reversing. I just haven't gotten deep into, low level reversing. I'm not at that level yet. So being honest with your skill set and the duration of actual experience that you've had in that. That's what I would do, Vladimir, to be honest. Hopefully that answers your question.
And I did have another one. So I have about 3 to 4 more questions, but I did have one that asked, do you typically see people get sponsored that are H-1B visas, even if it's not a clear position that can actually land cybersecurity roles? How often do you see that?
In the
I guess I'd have to look at the private, public. I guess I'd have to ask more because you're more focused on that DoD perspective. So this might be more of a private entity question.
Yeah, I'd have to defer on that one.
Okay. Oh, yep, I understand. So Dean asked, what is the difference between an industry position versus a DoD contractor position?
So you're talking about the difference between maybe being a corporate security versus working as a contractor?
Yes, let's go with that. Yep.
Okay, so in one hand, you'd be working internal security, so you may work in a CERT to protect the security internally to to that organization, versus working as an employee, but the mission would be for another program. It could be U.S. Army or Navy, for example, on a very specific mission. Whereas Engility or other like organizations in industry would hire you to be an internal corporate security professional, and could be you're working on insider threat, maybe you're working in some type of watch office or CERT of some type, protecting our internal infrastructure and security to the organization, but you're not a contractor working on another program. So they look very, one is corporate and one is you're a billable employee, you're full time to the organization, but you're billable on a specific contract, 5-year, 10-year program supporting, XYZ government agency.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm doing last call for the question so that we in the next few minutes we can wrap it up. But Mr. Robert did answer back on that whole him moving from network engineering over to the cybersecurity engineering field, and he does have that CASP. So what he elaborated on was he's more of that defensive end. He's worked in that IE vulnerability scanning and patch management. So how could he kind of steer that to land that cybersecurity position?
So I think he's on the right path. I think probably if he's looking to get more on the defensive side, I think the best blue team folks on the network security side, generally, I mean, just across the board from what I've seen, have worked on that red team or understand penetration testing. And network security, generally, I see a lot of, the best network security engineers, have Python scripting, understand SQL injection, understand and can do some level of basic, penetration testing. I'm not saying you're going to go and become a pen tester one day, but I think getting some type of either CEH or I would recommend actually doing some capture the flags if he's not already doing that, and getting involved in actually doing some type of blue team work, where he's being offensively, his network is being attacked, so that he can see, how the defensive security would work, and actually working towards that in a real world setting, either if he military, or I don't know if he's military or civilian, but getting involved in some type of cyber team of some kind, and actually doing that in some type of real world setting, and then also working in a home lab, doing some of his own testing at home from a penetration testing standpoint. Because even though he's going to inevitably work on the defensive blue team side, the best defenders have, Python scripting understanding, understand malware, understand from a black hat perspective what they're doing. So I would highly recommend him getting more involved, both outside of what he's doing probably day to day, and network engineering administration, beyond just firewall administration probably, and taking it a step further. There are some great CTFs and cyber meetups all around the really the nation, but DC metro area specifically, because we're a hub, but obviously other parts of the U.S. as well.
Awesome. And Mr. Robert did say thank you. He's working on that CYSA and pen test at the moment. So he did say thank you. So we had Jenny on the line also, Jenny Sykes on the line. She was responding to a few of the questions. I'm going to throw it over to you real quick, but she already said yes to all of them, just so that the people that are watching this a day from now, a week from now, can get the question and answer also. So basically, a couple of viewers asked, if you currently have, that secret clearance and want that next level, things like that, what exactly does Engility or someone else, do you all typically do that? And Jenny basically responded back with yes. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that, or?
So the question was, do they sponsor to get them the secret clearance?
No, to go to the next level. So I have a secret. I land a secret position with your company.
Oh,
and then there's a TS level. Let's say it's a position that I qualify for. She responded back, yes, we can do those sponsorships for that, to go to that next level.
Yeah, Jenny's my colleague. So yeah, we certainly would definitely do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm gonna turn it over to you for any closing remarks. Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, I just appreciate you doing this, Justin. I'm looking forward to next month, and we'll highlight some other positions, both on our defense and also in our intelligence division. Possibly I'll look at one maybe on the federal civilian side as well. So I just appreciate you doing this, getting more folks involved in cybersecurity. It's so vital to our national security, and certainly Engility is at the forefront of that. So anybody, any of your followers, even if you don't see a job that you're interested in now, please feel free to reach out to me. Happy to talk with you, walk you through what certs or steps you can take to better yourself in your career, anything that will serve our national security for our country. So I really appreciate you facilitating this, Justin. This is really great.
Well, thank you, Justin.
Yeah.
Yep. So thank you, Justin, for providing this helpful information and, of course, elaborating on open cybersecurity jobs you currently have, and you will have more in the future. Again, his information is below the video feed, so please reach out to him, contact him. The job boards are down there, so please leverage this resource to apply for positions or reach out to see if there's more you can do to qualify for a position. And again, thank you for tuning in to Cybersecurity Connection, where we connect you to a new recruiter focused on cybersecurity each and every night. Again, the link to the job website and contact information is below. See you again tomorrow night, or actually Monday night.